Hello.
What's up?
We're here. Welcome to the Mina Kimes Show featuring Lenny, live free agency edition. I am very excited to be doing this with Ben Solak. We talked about waiting until Tuesday, but we decided we couldn't wait. We had so much fun doing the live show for the Super Bowl or after the Super Bowl that we thought, why not do it again now? Please, if you're watching, put questions in the chat or break news to us, and you can watch us react in real time. The news is coming in fast and furious. Ben, how are you feeling before we get started on this fine free agency, this legal tampering period Monday?
I'm feeling very good. I had 3 goals. I wanted to get Alec Pierce to the Patriots. I wanted to get Quay Walker to the Jaguars, and I wanted to get Kenneth Walker to the Chiefs. So I was feeling like a failure at 12:15. I'm feeling like a success at 12:25. We're back, baby.
Let's start with the Kenneth Walker news, and then I think Pierce. I mean, I assume stuff might happen in the meantime, but Pierce and Colts and Kate Otten. I thought that was a Mike. Well, Kate Otten, he's a good player. All right, you're gonna get a lot of that on this pod as I get news alerts. The money is not out yet, unless I am mistaken. So let us know in the chat if that is there for Kenneth Walker. But Kenneth Walker, he already had like a Chiefs graphic made of him, like that looks like. It's got like multiple shots of him wearing a Chiefs uniform. This was something that had been discussed a lot as a possibility for a very obvious reason, which is that the Chiefs' run game has been dismal. It has been, in particular, dismal is the wrong word. It has completely lacked explosivity. I posted this stat, but the last 2 years, the Chiefs have been 32nd amongst 32 teams in the percent of runs that go for over 10 yards. They've actually been decently efficient at times, particularly in 2024. Kenneth Walker is an explosive back. This is his calling card. This is his greatest appeal. And I think a reason why a lot of folks thought he would be the number one back in free agency, including, of course, obviously coming off of being the Super Bowl MVP. Last season, he was 3rd in percent of runs amongst backs that go for over 10 yards. You certainly saw that on display during the Seahawks postseason run. Ben, I think this is fascinating for Kansas City because for a number of reasons. One of which is this is a team that's been linked with Jeremiah Love in the draft, who's another very explosive back. This suggests that they either don't want to spend that pick on Love or didn't think Love would be available to them. So what is your overall take here? You said you wanted it to happen. We can get them. You can react to the money because obviously we're not going to evaluate a deal until we know what it is. But how do you feel about the fit and the decision?
Yeah, I'll roll off of your Chiefs running back explosiveness take. Lowest explosive running back rush rates of the last 25 years is the Chiefs in 2025, then the Chiefs in 2007, and then the Chiefs in 2024, right? That's among all teams, all seasons, last 25 years. These last years of the Chiefs have been the worst for explosive running back runs. Some of that is structural. Whenever we talk about the Chiefs running game, we always have to acknowledge they would rather throw a screen to Rashee Rice or Xavier Worthy for 8 yards than actually hand the ball off for 8 yards. And those don't get counted as runs. And so you have to be careful with how you filter and whatever. But in general, Isaiah Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, man, like, we know the score on those players. That we do not fear those guys in the second and the third level. The idea is to be hammers in short yardage, right? Be able to have that like high success rate, kind of inch your way down the field offense. Walker represents a clear recognition from Brett Veach, from Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy, all the way down that, listen, we need to have some degree of juice at running back so that when we get our daylight moments, when we get those runs in the second and third level, at least we are doing something with them. We can't be totally toothless here. This to me is a classic, like, good free agent signing where Walker might join the Chiefs, not be as efficient as he was in his last year in Seattle. Oh, not look as good as other, running back contracts that are 12 million, 13 million, whatever. But like you had to get more explosive at running back this offseason. You went and got a guy who, even when Walker's at his worst and he's like not having his best seasons, he's always very explosive. You are solving just that issue and you're paying market price for it, but you needed to solve the problem. So I like it for the Chiefs a ton.
Yeah, I mean, I like it for Walker as well, right? He, I gave the numbers for last season, but it had been a little bit up and down, particularly in terms
God bless you.
of efficiency before that. However, a lot of that had to do with the Seahawks offensive line, which improved in run blocking, but I would describe it still inferior to the Chiefs overall. And I was just pulling up the run block win. Actually, Seahawks finished pretty high in run block win. But if you look over the last few years, it's no contest. The Chiefs offensive line also, they had some injuries last year. I think it's an ascendant young unit. You benefit, of course, from Patrick Mahomes. You do need receivers. One of the things with Walker that I feel like was underplayed a little bit is while he didn't face a lot of light personnel groupings because the Seahawks put heavy bodies on the field. Over the second half of the season after they acquired Rashid Shaheed, you saw the Seahawks gun run game with 3 wide receivers on the field improve a lot.
Yep.
Room to run. So when I look at Kansas City now, which by the way is also bringing back Travis Kelce, not much to discuss there. I like the offensive line, but I also still feel they need to add receivers, especially with the uncertainty about Rashee Rice. The other thing I'll say this is you could have justified the Jeremiah Love pick to me, but this is a Chiefs team that desperately needs both edge, receiver, and corner.
Mansour Delane at 9, baby.
This to me opens up some interesting possibilities for them there, especially if Love goes earlier, as this kind of suggests, which I don't know, man, some of those teams, but that's a problem for another day. For the Chiefs, I think you could get some really interesting opportunities. You talked about Delane. If one of the top 3 edges are miraculously there at 9, I would, in a heartbeat, take any of them, as well as the receivers. If Tate were to fall, I think it's a Tyson consideration spot too, maybe a trade down. So one of the things I like about addressing needs in free agency as opposed to the draft is it makes you less desperate in the draft and also allows you to seek, I think, better value, which is now what the Chiefs are positioned to do.
Mm-hmm. Tom Pelissero is reporting a number for Walker. You have a guess? You want to hear it?
15 APY.
15 APY, $45 million over 3 years for Kenneth Walker.
Oh,
now that's like max
Nailed
value. It sounds like the guarantees are lower and whatever, but still, you had Derrick Henry making 15 per year. McCaffrey's up there at 19, Saquon's at 20, and then below him, Brees on the tag at 14.3. So Kenneth, to me, before the playoffs, if you'd asked me how much money is Kenneth Walker making, I would have told you $10 million. And then after the Super Bowl, it's like, all right, a lot more than 10. Like that postseason run, just in terms of the receiving value, like I said, the ability to create explosives, obviously wins the MVP, was so big to his value. Then Brees comes off the board, right, where he's going to get tagged by the Jets, and Kenneth becomes the most desirable guy. I think your gun run point is very important because I do think that under center zone is not the best scheme for Kenneth. That's a lot of what he was doing in the first half there with Seattle. You kind of want Walker not having to pick a lane of, press the line. Oh, should I cut back? You want Walker on one track, but you're following this guard, right? And then you allow him to be a tackle breaker and to be that juiced up, twitchy running back that he is. And so with the Chiefs, who I think are going to do a little bit more pulling stuff, and obviously from the gun, you're going to be a little bit more RPO heavy. I think that's going to benefit Kenneth scheme wise as well. So there's a lot to like in this pairing.
Would like to see the Chiefs add another cheap back for depth, because the other thing about Walker is he certainly benefited from, I think, some lighter run at the beginning of the season with Charbonnet, and there was like a 2-back system. I'm not saying that should be the case in Kansas City. I think you probably, especially at this price, want to give him more run, but it, I think, pretty clearly helped him in the postseason as he, ramped up. And I think for a Chiefs team that has certainly aspirations every year of doing that. Oh, wow.
I have not seen this.
The Rams just signed Jaylen Watson from the
wow. Barking news. Oh my gosh. Look at the little animated Lenny. Look at him. He moves his head.
Wow. Okay. So the Rams just said, hey, we like you, Chiefs secondary. We're going to take the whole damn thing. Let's do this. Let's pivot to the Rams, and we can talk about the McDuffie deal a little bit as well here. Okay. Haven't seen the numbers yet. They just gave McDuffie a massive contract. Mm-hmm. It is technically top of the market cornerback money, although considering it was signed after Stingley at Sauce and whatnot, it's not really a raise if you account for inflation. Whatever. They're paying McDuffie like a top corner. Mm-hmm. So secondary was a massive glaring need for the Rams. It became very obvious down the stretch. The Rams had the 3rd cheapest defense, I believe, in football last year. And now it's going to change a lot.
Yeah.
The thing about, okay, so Watson, again, it's hard for me to know without seeing the contract. He was a really good player, though, for Kansas City. Really good. And I like bringing them in together. The thing about the McDuffie trade, Ben, that was kind of interesting to me. So for those who don't know, the Rams, I don't know how you would know this, over the weekend traded, it was let me get the actual.
It was a
first,
a fifth overall pick.
And then a 3rd next year, which I was like, whoa, the 3rd next year is
big.
McDuffie, ascendant young player. Ascendant is maybe the wrong word, but super talented young player, one of the best tackling corners in the entire NFL, useful as a blitzer. Some questions though about whether he was best at his best playing inside versus outside. He had a little bit of a decline this year. I think that probably contributed to the Chiefs trading him. But now that they've added another outside corner, do you think this alleviates the pressure on LA to play McDuffie outside full time? Like, how do you view these two moves together, Ben? Because it kind of paints a fuller picture of what the Rams secondary will look like.
Yeah, I wish I knew. I still feel like I don't know because I have Trent McDuffie who can play outside, but I kind of prefer him to play in the slot. And then I have Quentin Lake, who they extended midseason, who
Good.
I like playing in the slot, but I would also I'd love to be able to get him some more traditional safety reps. So you're thinking to yourself, after the trade for McDuffie, they already have Lake extended. Maybe they let Cam Curl walk and they move Lake to safety. And then they extended Cam Curl. So I've got like a backlog of guys. I've got like a domino of dudes. So like I'd like to play Lake a little more at safety, but Cam Curl's there. I'd like to play McDuffie a little bit more in the slot, but then Quinn Lake's there. And now I have an outside corner here in Jaylen Watson. Very interesting it's Watson because the rumor that I heard for months, I'm sure you heard this as well, was that they were the Reek Woolen team to play on the outside. And that was going to be their longer body and their bigger arms, and their ability to play press, and then their athlete. That's what Watson is. Watson, right, is, I want to say is like 6'2", 6'2", 197, 32-inch arms. This is your up at the line of scrimmage, knock a guy off his line, play with a deep half safety over him so you can protect the speed a little bit and be very, very aggressive. So Watson at least protects McDuffie from some of the bigger receivers that have given McDuffie trouble, right? And that's how you saw Watson used by the Chiefs. I'm sure the Rams will scope a lot of that out. But I think you still have to play McDuffie outside quite a bit if you want Lake to be your slot player. And McDuffie, just like when he gets the Cortland Sutton matchups, as all Broncos and Chiefs fans know, that's where he struggles, right? He gets the A.J. Brown matchup. That caliber of size can give him issues on the outside. But in general, you have a very good player in McDuffie, and you have a good player in Jaylen Watson. What is the face for?
Okay, I just checked our chat. I'm hoping this person is accurate. What? Yeah, wow. Okay, let the record stand. This news was broken to me first in the chat by Jordan Solis _ Jaylen Phillips
is a bird?
No, he is not a bird. 4-year, $120 million with the Carolina
Panthers. You said $30 million for Jaylen Phillips?
$80 million in guarantees. So it's like a 2-year deal.
Still.
I mean, no. Sorry, $80 million. Whoa, I just did my math. It's not a 2-year deal. Wait, that's like a 3-year.
$30 million per year for Jaylen Phillips is nuts. His best season is 7.5 sacks.
I do want to say, I kept telling folks, Jaylen Phillips is going to make more than you guys think. Because people were saying to me, he'll get in the teens. I was like, will he?
I was low 20s. I thought he would clear Rousseau and Karlaftis.
Wow.
$30 million per year. He is, I want to say, 8th. It's Parsons, Hutchinson, Watt, Hunter, Garrett, Crosby, Bosa, and then Hines Allen is 28.2. Bosa's 34. He's the 8th highest paid edge right now. Jaylen Phillips is. He's had 2 major injuries in the NFL. He is not a high sack player.
All right, let's talk about what I like about Jaylen Phillips, though. Complete player, excellent against the run, which I think is still something Carolina needed to shore up. We'll get to the contracts. I agree with you. It is a lot of money. I think the sack numbers do not reflect his impact. Like when you look at pass rush win, pressure rate, that kind of thing. He, to me, like last year, proved he could play an entire season, which is important, right? He's coming off of a full, healthy season. I think you can see why Panthers did it because Giro Evero, their defensive coordinator, wants to run a defense that has some similar DNA, shall we say, to the Vic Fangio defense. And Jaylen Phillips, to me, is like your prototypical Vic Fangio edge. So, like,
they also got clipped off Milton Williams last year money-wise. So you can get them being like, big check. You're getting in the building, right? Because missing on Milton killed them last year in terms of their approach to free agency.
That's a great point. I forgot about that. And he was so good, too, right? And like, that was one of the real, like, the New England Patriots got what you paid for signings.
Yep.
So pass rush was a glaring need in Carolina, arguably their biggest need headed into this entire offseason. There's other things that they need to address, but they're picking later in the draft. I think this reflects also the drop off from the top of the edge class to the second class. You know what I mean? Like, so when you see a contract come in like this and it strikes you as an overpay and you're like, oh my gosh.
Did you see that trade news?
Yeah, wow. Pittman. Now the chat is breaking news to me.
Yeah. You had Pittman had to be dealt after they extended Pierce. There's no way you could be paying Pierce that much money. You have Josh Downs, you drafted Tyler Warren in the first round, and you're also paying Pittman $28 million this year. Pittman's contract was also It's the last year of his 3-year extension. He was going to hit the cap for $29 million, but only 5 of that was signing bonus. $24 million in cap space you can free up by trading Pittman. And so I bet you this is not for a lot of capital. I bet you it's like for late round picks, and they're just creating the space that way they can actually get the Daniel Jones deal done. I think it's going to be for like a 5th.
Please, no one in the chat fake news me. I'm looking at the chat. I'm reading some of this. Stop fake.
Don't fake. A lot of trust right now.
A lot of trust right now with the chat. First of all, first thought is, holy get off the bus team with Pittman and DK Metcalf.
Darnell coming back from the Army, dude. They are jacked.
That is a lot of beef. Okay. So we still don't know who is playing quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but he does complement Metcalf well in terms of like an intermediate receiver who can work the middle of the field. I still feel like I would love the Steelers to add like a twitchy slot type, but
Calvin Austin's a free agent right now, so they don't have that body in the building.
I'm going to reserve judgment until I doubt they had to give up a ton because everybody. No, it's not out yet. Okay, I was just checking. That's what Rashan Gary says. All right, so let's keep an eye on this for trade compensation. But yeah, I think we should get to the Colts now. We should get to the Colts.
I will say if you tied me down and handcuffed me in a dark room for 2 weeks and said you have to figure out how to make Aaron Rodgers work in 2026 as a quarterback, after I went insane for the first week, I would land on, who's a pretty good receiver for guy who wants to get rid of the ball very quickly. We need to be able to create yards after the catch, but we also just need to have like extremely timely, accurate, quarterback friendly, good against zone, catches everything receiver. Like Pittman does make sense for Rodgers because you can trick yourself into thinking because we have to live so close to the line of scrimmage and we have to be this short distribution team. Like we want all yak athletes, but you also still need a guy with like a catch radius in the short areas who catches through contact and safeties coming to hit him. And that's Pittman's best strength, right? He's so good. 5 to 12 yards down the field, timing off the breaking routes, opening up against zone. And so he is a very good fit for Rodgers. Why we are kowtowing to Aaron Rodgers in the year of our Lord 2026, God only knows, but it is a good fit.
Let's talk about the Colts now, because we have not even addressed, well, I guess now the Phillips trade, the Phillips deal comes in on top of, I was going to say Alec Pierce is the biggest deal of the day so far.
Yeah.
But so far it's the Jaylen Phillips trade. So Pierce did end up re-signing with the Colts. It was, I believe, $29 million-ish, just under 29.
Yeah, 4 years, 114.
Which is comparable to like Terry McLaurin. It's probably like somewhere in the 10 to 15 range, I would guess, without looking in terms of APY. So when we talked about Daniel Jones in the Colts, and there's some big news there as well. Dan Pizzuta, who was on the show last week, mentioned that he was like, I feel like they wouldn't do this with Jones unless they were close to a deal with Alec Pierce, though I might be giving them too much credit. Turns out he was correct, right? Because this deal was clearly done. It was the first thing to come in. It's funny because there was like I think Pierce gave an interview where he was like, I'm excited to test free agency. It's like your friend who breaks up with their girlfriend. They're like, I'm excited to be single. And then a day later, they're just back with their girlfriend.
Yeah. You don't want to be out here, Del Curry. It's the wisest Twitter thread ever written.
So I would say I'm surprised Pierce didn't actually test free agency because I did think there would be a pretty robust market for his services. But that's a rich deal. Like it's not. I'm not saying it's an over. We can get to the value, but like that's not. He didn't take I don't view this as a hometown discount without seeing the actual structure of it. But it means that the Colts made a choice. They chose him over Pittman. And it seems like they also chose him in conjunction with keeping Daniel Jones. Now, what keeping Daniel Jones looks like is still the open question. They hit him with the transition tag, but it was reported this morning that Jones's camp wants the reports I saw were that the Colts offered Daniel Jones a Sam Darnold type extension,
right?
Which was a pretty team friendly deal that Seattle did. It was like essentially like a 2-year deal in the 40s, and that Jones's camp thinks he should get 50 plus, which was the first thing I saw this morning. It was like taking a shot of espresso in my bed. I just sat up right when I saw that number, and I was just so excited to talk about it. Ben, how bad would it be if the Colts folded to Daniel Jones?
In 2019, the salary cap was less than $200 million, and now it's over $300 million. And what happened now?
Wait, is this confirmed?
They put up the barking news.
Whoa! Malik Willis to the Miami Dolphins.
The Dolphins have enough money for Malik Willis.
That is the great
mystery
here.
Rap tweets out 3 years, $67.5 million. So that's about $22 million per year on the APY, which to me makes sense for Willis. That's like actually sober and correct, which so far deals have been nuts. And so that to me is a good APY.
Oh, sorry. We keep moving off of stuff. I do want to get your your thought on Daniel Jones, and we'll hit Malik Willis after this.
Yes. So Daniel Jones had one good season. And by one good season, we mean like 9 good weeks. And we all conveniently forget that he was starting to be bad even before he popped the Achilles injury. And he did this on what is pretty much super teamish in terms of the offensive weapons, right? You had Pierce, you had Downs, you had Warren, you had Michael Pittman, you had a good offensive line. They're losing guys off that offensive line, right? Braden Smith's out of there. You have Jonathan Taylor. You also got the drop on teams, right? Year one, bang, no one saw this coming. Well, they're going to adjust to what you do. And so if you want to put all that money into Daniel Jones, who we have seen him, post big contract extension, kind of pumpkin back, clock strikes midnight on Cinderella a little bit, you can go for it. I think the Colts were correct to say we are not going to give you a huge extension before we give Pierce a big extension. I think the Colts were very correct to say we value Alec Pierce at 25 years old more than Michael Pittman at 29 years old. We think we can get Pierce to be good at the Pittman stuff, the quick breaking routes, the underneath stuff, because Pierce did none of that. All Pierce did was run down the field. We think we can get him to be good at the Pittman stuff a lot easier than we get Pittman to be good at the Pierce stuff. But Pittman ain't going to suddenly start being, 21.3 yards per reception like Alec Pierce was. So I think the Colts are making all the wise team building choices. Now you get into a little bit of a standoff with what sort of a deal can Jones get in the open market? Will you be willing to sign that? I really hope the Colts do earnestly engage with a quarterback option that is not Daniel Jones, even if it is solely for the sake of negotiation. You do need to see what it looks like in the other pastures a little bit,
But if you're the Colts, your choice now is either Daniel Jones, apparently on a multi-year 40-plus APY contract, or Kyler Murray or Tua on veteran minimum contracts, right?
Yep.
I don't understand how. I'm not saying they're better quarterbacks than Daniel Jones necessarily, although but that cost difference is insane.
Yeah, and I think if Ballard and Steichen felt empowered in their job security, it would be an obvious choice to go for the minimum contract quarterback and to rebuild the veteran thing. I am worried that because Ballard and Steichen maybe don't necessarily feel great about their job security because of, the hot seats and the change in ownership, that they feel compelled to just run Daniel Jones back because it's the more defensible thing. It's the guy who previously worked. It's the safer move, even though there's a massive Achilles tendon sized issue in this conversation.
It's a quarterback whose game has athleticism as a massive part of it. Coming off of an Achilles injury in December, we have now seen 2 quarterbacks take forever to get back to normal. Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles in October, returned the following year, and couldn't even play under center.
Couldn't drive the football.
And you might say to that, well, Daniel Jones is younger, totally valid. But is that enough to justify a multi-year 40-plus to me, if the Colts somehow manage to get him to actually play on the transition tag, that is the win here. That's what I would do if I was them. But it sounds like they're already offering him more than that. This feels like a scenario where they're going to get him to do 45 APY, 2-year guarantee, and call it a win. That's not a win.
Yeah, and I don't see who on the market besides the Colts earnestly engages with Jones is also the tricky thing, which I think that for Jones camp, you're going to struggle to get a tender in an offer sheet in that's going to actually put heat on the Colts. Yeah. But if you're the Colts and Jones doesn't sign with anybody, then you don't really budge at all. But if you don't budge at all and this continues, then Geno signs and Kirk signs and Kyler signs. And then all of a sudden you are Daniel Jones or bust because you missed out on the legitimate wave of quarterback options, which is why all right, you traded Pittman right away. Good. You have to do something to force the issue on the quarterback thing. Because even if you get leverage because Jones doesn't get a big offer sheet, you lose it over time because the other quarterbacks sign in their locations. So the Colts have to figure this out in the next 5 to 10 days. Not like today, but they really do have to get this done.
Many fans of other teams in the chat are encouraging the Colts to sign Daniel Jones to
the logic always helps. What did the other team not want you to do? Fourth down decision making.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, I should have mentioned this at the beginning. We're going to talk about Maxx Crosby to the Ravens later, whenever we get a break in the news, because I haven't talked about that on the show, and it is a massive, potentially league trade.
Did you see Isaiah Likely of the Giants, $13.3 million per year?
13. Wow, good for him.
Mm-hmm.
I like that deal for them. Isaiah, I know he's coming off of a down season, but he's just a year removed, I think, from being like very productive touchdown. I think the red zone potential for New York is there. He's kind of more of like a big receiver type, but that was a position they needed to address.
Right.
Benefit. Let's go back to Malik Willis. We didn't actually talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So Miami. So this was something that was discussed in the context of like, oh, they're bringing in Green Bay, Jeff Hafley. Right. Yeah, they know them. Okay, fine. But let's talk about the actual fit and timeline. So first of all, I think this is a super reasonable contract and very small samples. There's so little comps for Malik Willis, like quarterbacks with this small sample size of.
So I wrote about it. Do you want some of the big names?
Brock.
Yeah, so Brock, who had 7 starts with the Broncos. Kevin Cobb had 7 starts with the Eagles. Yes, Kevin Cobb had 7 starts with the Eagles. They traded him to the Cardinals. Cardinals gave him a market level deal. That went terribly. The Brock deal obviously went terribly. And then Jimmy Garoppolo is your other one that kind of holds. He had 7 starts, 5 of which were with the 49ers before he signed what then at the time was a large quarterback extension. And Garoppolo like ended up fine. And so that's kind of your example for a win. But if we're talking early drafted quarterbacks, first 3 rounds with fewer than 10 career starts, those are pretty much the only guys in recent history who have gotten major extensions. And you're like 0.5 for 3 on success in that. And so it is a very small sample and a very thin eye of the needle you're trying to thread when you have a guy this inexperienced for whom there was actually a decent draft capital investment. Usually it's a sign of like, oh, he was an immediate bust. And Willis is really trying to buck that trend.
It's sort of unclear what the Dolphins offense is going to look like this year. I think that's the other interesting thing. I mean, so Bobby Slowik was hired as the offensive coordinator, which would lead us to believe it's a Shanahan style offense based on what we saw in Houston. And of course, coming from San Francisco, under center, outside zone run game. Is that in your mind what works for Malik Willis? Like, how would you like to see them build an offense that caters to his skill set? Now we should note there's some cool stuff still. Offense, the Dolphins defense. You just put that in the corner for now. It's an offensive line that legitimately did improve, right? At multiple positions. You have Devon Achane, who's one of the most fun, exciting running backs in the NFL. Now you get that backfield. That's pretty cool. You still have Waddle. Darren Waller was weirdly good last year.
Yeah. Air yards per target of like 95, which is shooting the ball down the field.
He's a free agent, right? Darren, they just did like a 1-year deal with him.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you're really looking at a core of Waddle, Achane, and I don't know, Brewer.
Yeah, I would say Brewer, Pat Paul. Like, I think so. Running game wise, you're in an unbelievable spot in terms of what you can do with Achane, what you can do with Willis out of the gun in the boot game. You have a lot of speed there in the backfield. I will say that one of my criticisms of Bobby Slowik, even in 23 when Stroud was cooking, and then into 24 when they really started to fall apart, is the running game wise, they were not, doing anything cool or new. They were running the Shanahan stuff. There was not a ton of innovation there, particularly in the running game. And so you would like to see, the rest of that staff and whatever new fresh ideas you can get in there, be willing to be in the gun more and run more college-inspired stuff and run more RPO. If you're going to have Devon Achane and Malik Willis in the backfield, you have to be stressing the 53 and a third. You have to be using horizontal stretch and getting flow in different direction. When you have a guy like Brewer, you have guys like Paul who are really good on the run. This is critical. And so running game-wise, you have a lot of really good pieces. Passing game, you bring up the Shanahan stuff. I don't know. I think Willis's best ball is his vertical ball. And typically when we think about Shanahan, and especially Solak when he was successful there with Stroud, it was a lot of crossing, it was a lot of horizontal stretch, intermediate breaking route. I don't think Willis is incapable of throwing those. I also have not seen him do it a lot. When he stepped in for the Packers this year, they had already completely shucked their intermediate middle offense for the sake of intermediate outbreaking stuff. And he would throw, the Luke Musgrave corner and what have you. I'm like, that's accessible to him. But as we know, intermediate middle throwing is a different cat, a different challenge. Requires a lot of touch, which I would say has not been Willis's strength really at any time, Liberty to Tennessee to Green Bay. And so to me, if Slowik walks out with copy paste CJ Stroud 2023, I think they're going to struggle to throw the football the way that they'd like to. My hope is that they would be a little bit more college inspired, a little bit more zone read RPO oriented, and then you bring guys into the box, you force single high, and you take your opportunities on the outside vertically.
Yeah, I don't even know who gets the most mad about this, but I've mentioned Jalen Hurts as a decent amount in terms of a quarterback where beautiful.
Well, Kevin Patullo is there in Miami. So excellent. There's a synergy. It's good. Everybody knows what to do.
I totally forgot that.
Kevin Patullo, senior offensive assistant, baby.
Oh my God. Some of the Miami hires have really kind of flown under the radar. I feel like, because there was this assumption that this was going to be like a rebuilding team. I mean, we haven't even talked about the Tua release, but let's see. It's a $99 million in dead money, but they'll be designated post June, so it'll be $67 million against the cap.
Casual, don't worry about
it. Followed by $32 million next year. Oh God. Okay, but what I was gonna say about Miami is, so to go with Willis, like you were saying, if you can build I would say top 10 rushing attack around him, then you get some of those coverages that he has proven, like Jaylen, to be capable of exploiting. The Dolphins had an 11th in DVOA rushing attack last year, despite having an immobile quarterback. Now, they had a lot of, they had maybe one of the most creative run game designers in the NFL, which is, that's the concern here. But the pieces are there for them to continue running the football, I think, at a high level, given not just Achane, but what we've seen from the offensive line. Now you throw in a running back or a quarterback who I believe is one of the more dynamic, probably like a top 3 rushing quarterback in football. Has that potential?
Yeah.
I like Malik.
Very important to stress. Very important to stress with Willis. This is not like, ooh, Kyler, ooh, Jalen Hurts. No, this is more like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson in terms of when he talks to football.
He is there, right?
Yep.
So you just have a numbers advantage anytime he's in the backfield. So Solak, there's a huge opportunity for him to show the league that he's grown from that experience and that he can actually cook up a really effective run game, because he has the pieces to do it. Financially, I mean, the Dolphins are screwed.
The Dolphins are going to be the team that the fantasy bros are addicted to over the next 3 months, because it's like a mobile quarterback, it's a running back who catches the football, and the defense is going to give up 39 points per game. So they're constantly going to be playing fast and behind. It is Jaylen Waddle now, siloed up wide receiver 1 targets because Tyreek Hill is gone. This is going to be the fantasy. Everybody's going to, ooh, Dolphins this, ooh, Dolphins that. This is going to be the team.
Ethan Barnes breaking. Donna Kelsey remodeling out.
I did hear about this. This TMZ let me know. I was fired up.
The Jets are spending money. Minka. They added Minka. They gave him a contract. Minka Fitzpatrick.
I saw they added Osai.
Osai, yeah. So the Bengals desperately need to figure some pass rush out. Still a ton of big names out there, including Trey Hendrickson. I haven't seen any smoke around Trey Hendrickson to any particular team.
I mean, I think Trey finally is in free agency and just wants to enjoy it for a little bit. Just bask in it. Like, oh, that's right. I can go play for who I want to, and people will offer me money, and this is not awful. This is actually very nice. So he's enjoying his time, all right? He's Mai-Taiing it. He's having a nice, relaxing day in free agency.
I wouldn't hate like a mercenary deal with the Chiefs now that they've got a little bit of money, a little bit of clearance. Speaking of Donna Kelsey, are there any other teams that you would like to see go after Trey Hendrickson before we move on?
So the Cowboys, they talked about it, and obviously they went and they signed Rashan Gary.
Let's talk. Yeah, we should talk about the Rashan Gary.
I would not mind if they still added Hendrickson to that. Donovan Azaraku, who is their a rookie edge rusher, had offseason hip surgery. Nobody really knows how healthy he's going to be to start year 2. Jadeveon Clowney was their leading sack getter last year. He's a free agent. They're nowhere in the edge room right now. And to get the best out of Gary, you need to be able to play him inside the tackle at times. And so you need to have guys who can play outside of the tackle. Hendrickson also can just be like a straight DPR for the Cowboys because they're so loaded at interior defensive line. You can just take Hendrickson off the field on running downs, which at this stage in his career, you absolutely have to do. So Dallas, to me, still makes sense as the team, though they probably should be done investing at the defensive line at this point, but I still wouldn't mind Trey Hendrickson.
Let me see if this is actually right, because I saw it in the chat. Kobe Bryant to the Bears. See if that's right. Let's put a pin in that. Let's talk about Rashan Gary really quickly, because we haven't we should I went too fast over Jaylen.
Oh Phillips. My gosh, Steelers, please God. The Steelers extended Pittman.
Oh, they gave him a deal?
Pellis are reporting a new 3-year, $59 million deal, which presumably they're taking the last year, the $24 million year, ripping it up, and then doing a new 3-year, $59 million contract, which is less than $20 million per year. But why are you extending Michael Pittman? The Steelers pissed me off.
We didn't. Yeah, okay. Let's do. I haven't seen this Kobe Bryant deal. I only saw it in the chat, so I'm gonna
Kobe Bryant to the Bears. I did a video on Kobe last week, and I almost said like Bears are a really good fit. How that'd be good with Kevin Byard. I just didn't send it, and that makes me sad. Kobe's a good player.
Let's talk about Rashan Gary in that trade because we haven't gotten to that. So Rashan Gary, it was a great saga over the weekend. Rashan Gary posted on Instagram a goodbye to Green Bay, along like I'm getting cut, goodbye, and then retracted it and said he was hacked. Really love the idea of hackers out there putting together just long goodbye posts for this is the next tier of hacking. He retracted it because it turned out he was traded. First of all, Cowboys, if a player puts out a goodbye post and you trade actual draft capital for him, you already screwed up.
I was arguing with somebody about this today where they were like, Gary fits well for the defense. I was like, I agree. And they're like, Gary, it matches well with Quinn. And I was like, I agree. They still traded a fourth for a guy who posted a goodbye Packers thing last week. Like that just to me is indefensible. You cannot get out of that. That's a bad deal.
Okay, so I'm not. Oh, wow. Demario Davis back to the Jets. That's interesting.
Demario Davis and Aaron Glenn, man. I mean, just absolutely thick as thieves, those two. That Glenn was a Saints defensive backs coordinator for like 4 years before he took the Lions DC job. He talks about Demario Davis at every possible opportunity he has to talk about good football players. Loves Demario Davis so much.
Back to Gary. Look, I'm not going to get like too worked up about a fourth rounder for a solid player. I don't think he's like, I think he has not lived up to, I think, what people hope, certainly with the draft pick. And he is a player. So if you're reading NFL news and like these breaking news and you're trying to parse out what's real, whenever people post career numbers instead of here's what he did last year, that's a good sign that you might be dealing with a declining player or a player maybe who's not as good as they thought he would be. I do think it is discouraging that playing with Micah Parsons, who was getting double teamed like insane, he was not very productive. And then, of course, after Micah Parsons left, he didn't do anything for Green Bay. And now he's going to the team that Micah Parsons left permanently. And so the idea that he's going to come in and be a wide receiver or an edge one and super productive, I think is probably not going to happen. But I think he's solid against the run. At times, he's been very good against the run, which has, of course, been an issue in Dallas. And again, it's a fourth rounder. It's approximately $20 million APY, 1-year deal, really. We'll see if they do some sort of extension. I can't get like super worked up about that, but like I'm not like, oh, this is a disastrous mistake. It's fine. I do think it's a win for Green Bay, though, to get any draft capital, considering that they were obviously going to cut him.
The Cowboys, my thing with the pick is the Cowboys don't have a second-round pick and a third-round pick this year because of the George Pickens deal and I want to say part of the Quinnen deal. I can't remember the other one left. Anyway, so you're missing 2 day 2 picks. You're trading an early day 3 pick in the next year. And while that doesn't matter too much, you do in 3 or 4 years start to have an issue where those rookie contracts that you need to kind of fill out the middle tier of your roster. Oh, we have a decent starter at 1.5 million, at 2 million, at 2.5 million. That's where when you start trading a bunch of day 2 picks, you lose that middle class of your roster, which is really important for staying under the cap, especially for a team that is paying Dak $60 million per year, CD so much per year. They want to pay, George Pickens that much. Tyler Smith's on the massive extension. Like you need rookie starters. So I would be wanting to make fewer picks, or excuse me, I want to make more picks in day 2 and in those middle rounds, as opposed to being where they are right now, which is siloed with 2 first-round picks and then not picking again for a long time. You start to lose the roster fodder you need to make the math work. Now it is the 2026 draft, so not having a second, a third in this draft class is not as big of a deal because it's a really bad draft class. But they're trading 2027 capital now, and so the Packers are the team that, if you are moving on from Rashan Gary. You moved on from Kenny Clark, excuse me. You just traded Colby Woolen for Zaire Franklin. Packers right now, you go to our lads defensive line in the Green Bay Packers, it is scary, scary business after Micah Parsons. So Green Bay has got to start getting involved in what's the not great defensive tackle free agency class ASAP, because they need bodies to make this defense work.
That is, hold on 1 second. Sorry.
News, maybe news, not news, questionably news.
I thought it was news, but it's not. No, it's not news. Yeah, it's a good point about Green Bay. And I don't think I've seen any defensive tackle deals yet. Have we seen anything?
Sheldon Rankins resigned with the Texans for $212, which if you're like, Ben, why do I care about that?
He's been doing that deal forever.
Sheldon Rankins is like the second best defensive tackle on the market right now. Now, like your DJ Readers are up in this class. Your BJ Hills are up in this class. Kairos Tonga for the Patriots. There are 40% of the snaps, run defending, first 2 downs, defensive tackles in this group. Green Bay, you got to get at least one. Ideally, you get multiple, right? Devontae Wyatt's coming off a major injury, and then you have nothing else at the position. The way you lose the value on Parsons is if teams can just run at him and run the football successfully. You only get value on the Parsons deal if you can actually get to pass rush down. So Green Bay, I like a lot of the moves in a vacuum that they've made, but because you've now spent so much at that particular position, it's Wyatt, Carl Brooks, and nobody. And that just does not work in the modern NFL. You need more bodies.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the timeline for Parsons looks like, but that to me is, it's going to be hard to project Green Bay's season without knowing that at this point. If you could tell me that Parsons was returning by, I don't know, October or something, I would feel a lot better about it. And that's going to obviously influence a lot of their choices. Oh my goodness. All right. I'm going to name some of the names that are still out there in free agency. The big dog is, of course, Tyler Linderbaum. We did get a few center deals over the weekend. Connor McGovern re-signing with the Bills for about 13 APY. Tyler Biadasz, that was kind of an interesting one, to the Chargers. I think that there was some money on that one too. Let me find it because I thought that was interesting. I think it was about 10 million APY. And then Garrett Bradbury to the Bears. They acquired him. So Linderbaum, it's funny because it took a couple of names out of Linderbaum contention. The Chargers were a team I think folks thought about a little bit. I think very few teams have the ability to afford him. All it takes is one Vegas or something to blow everybody out of the water. But the Ravens are still in the mix to bring him back. It'll be pretty hard now though. With
Ravens did sign John Simpson, which is very, very big because if you were going to lose Linderbaum and you're going to go into next year with Andrew Voorhees, Daniel Falele, and at center, brother, we were going to die. You need to have functional play on the interior. So Simpson in the Ravens to me is both a good signing, even if they bring Linderbaum back, but also is a sign that, hey, we're going to have a veteran who knows what he's doing, who can help us set protections, even if we don't get Linderbaum back in the building.
Kenny G to the Bucks. Rashad White was a free agent. I thought
Kenneth Gainwell with Bucky Irving? For why?
Spider-Man meme.
Yeah.
I thought Kenny G would sign somewhere where he would have a chance to be the lead dog. I don't know.
Is he big enough to be the lead dog? That's my thing. It's just Bucky's not big and Kenneth's not big. Bucky Irving is 5'9", 192. Kenneth is
good for him. 2 years, 14.
5'8", 200. All right. The Buccaneers running back room can't see over the wall. This is not a big group at all.
Okay. I'm just going to go back to reading those names, though, that are still out there. Trey Hendrickson, who we discussed. Devin Lloyd. I saw a report that it seems unlikely that he's going to return to the Jaguars.
Yeah, I think he's going to make big money.
Yeah, he's Dafe Owe, and Boye Mafe, two of the edges. None of the edges outside of Jaylen Phillips. Shahid, Brees returned.
Romeo Dobbs is a big one to me.
Yes. Every single team, every single fan base in the NFL thinks that they're signing Romeo Dobbs.
Well, he's a classic, good wide receiver too, so he fits everywhere. Oh, he can block, he can go down the field, he can yards off the catch. So there's no way you can't talk yourself into Romeo Dobbs fitting on your team. Very handy player in that way. Good cope player.
Reek Woolen, Jamel Dean amongst the corners. Mike Evans, obviously. So, yeah, quite a few. Okay. The Malik Willis thing also introduces the question of what the hell are the Cardinals going to do at quarterback? Because there was a lot of smoke around that team, connecting them to Willis. So the quarterback carousel narrowed a little bit now that Indianapolis and Miami are out of the running. We are still looking at Arizona, the Jets, the Steelers. Increasingly seems like they're just going to bring back Rodgers. The Vikings are the
Vikings.
belle of the ball. Yeah. The Vikings, to me, the two quarterbacks we've got eyes on are Kyler Murray and Geno Smith. All of these quarterbacks are cheap at this point. Now that Malik was the guy who you had to pay. Turns out not that much money, but any of these guys now can be signed for pretty small amounts of money. At this point, if you were Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Arizona, the Jets. Oh, there was a report also connecting the Falcons to Tua.
Yep.
Just a funny one. Which would you, for those 5 teams that I just mentioned, which quarterbacks would you prefer? Now we're not talking about what will happen. What would you like to see for those teams?
Kyler to the Vikings for sure. Now, you hear a lot of people say like, "Oh, is he a scheme
fit?
Scheme fit, brother? It's Kyler Murray." Like, I understand. Yeah, I understand that he hasn't
put the money there every time we talk about this.
Yes, which for people who are listening and haven't been dialed in on the cap minutia of free agency, when you have big contracts, mass amounts of base salary, and those players get cut, there's offset language in those contracts such that, hey, we were going to pay you, $38 million guaranteed left on your deal, but if you go sign a $30 million guarantee, $30 million deal somewhere else, they're paying you 30. We're just paying you 8, right? There's offset language. And so what the other team does is they say, listen, we're just going to sign you for the vet minimum. You're making the same amount of money no matter what. We're just going to force the Cardinals to pay it and not us. And so Kyler, Geno, Kirk, all of whom had their contracts cut, right? This isn't regular free agents. They were cut. All have offset language on their salaries such that they can be signed for veteran minimums and still make the same amount of money they would have otherwise from the dead cap hit from the teams they're leaving. So Kyler to the Vikings, just from the money perspective, and also, the scheme fit, throw over the middle. It's Kyler Murray, dude. Like, it's Kyler Murray. He's good at things, and Kevin O'Connell's a good coach. You're going to change what you do to fit for Kyler Murray. It's Kyler Murray. He's not been amazing, but he's a first overall pick. So I like that.
Brees Hall just posted, damn, we sure got a lot of money in Florham Park. All of these contracts dudes are signing. Yeah.
The Cardinals, I think, like, they have Jacoby in the building. It's a Rams inspired Mike LaFleur offense. I do think that, like, Kirk Cousins can hold a job down there for a year and you can be okay. Geno can hold a job down for a year, then you can be okay. The Jets are very interesting to me because I thought the Jets were going to be more aggressively in on Malik Willis because I thought they would want quarterback mobility, right? And that's something that Aaron Glenn's always prized. So I think they're going to try to do the Kyler thing. If not, kind of hard to find the guy in free agency that I think works for them. Like, if you're going to just do a veteran to hold the job for a year to draft someone in 2027, just do Justin Fields. You don't have to go sign anybody new. I wouldn't be surprised if they're the team that's on the trade market to take like a stab at the young guy and see if they can solve quarterback a year early. The Spencer Rattler trade, the Tanner McKee trade, the Anthony Richardson trade. Those to me are the things that would make sense for the Jets.
The Jets depth chart is so weird right now. I'm looking at it. Because whatever quarterback they were to add, it's an offensive. So Ali Vera-Tucker is one of those free agents too. He is out there, but otherwise it's a young, improving offensive line. You have Brees Hall. You have the receiver group at the moment is A.D. Mitchell, Garrett Wilson. Just reading it down. Otherwise I would start. Garrett Wilson, A.D. Mitchell, John Mechie. Okay.
Mason Taylor
at tight end. Like, if you're, let's say, put yourself in the head of a Geno or a Tua or one of these guys that kind of have their pick of where to go, would you rather go to the Cardinals or the Jets or the Falcons?
Falcons, I think for sure. I trust.
Even though that's the competition, you're actually competing there. Should be noted.
Yeah. If I don't think I can beat what I've seen from Michael Penix now coming off a major knee injury, then that, like, we've got a separate problem here. The weapons in Atlanta are remarkably better. Drake London, Kyle Pitts on the tag, and then Bijan Robinson. Even if they don't get something done with Pitts, Bijan and Drake alone carry enough weight. That line, I think, is quite good, though they're getting a little bit old and probably needs to be retooled. And then I think, okay, Frank Reich back with the Jets. Maybe that's something. Ooh, Mike LaFleur's second opportunity with the Cardinals. Maybe that's something. Man, I know Kevin Stefanski's good at this. He might not be as good at this as I think he is. Maybe he should have figured stuff out in Cleveland that he didn't. But I'm positive over 8 years of what he had to deal with or 6 years of what he had to deal with in Cleveland, quarterback wise and offensive line wise, I'm positive he is definitely good at this. And then it's just kind of somewhere in the range of like 10th best OC to 16th best OC or whatever it is. And so to me, Atlanta is the spot I would want to land. And I feel confident in my ability to win that job over a hampered Penix in camp for a new coaching staff. That to me feels like a win.
Well, this is a good time to talk about the reports that Atlanta is interested in Tua Tagovailoa, who you and I were joking before we started taping. If you took Tua's heat map and Michael Penix Jr.'s heat map as passers, in addition, both of them being left-handed, obviously, and you overlaid them on top of each other, you would have a complete quarterback because Penix can get you outside the numbers and deep. Tua can throw over the middle of the field. The problem is when you flip it and both quarterbacks are deficient in both those areas.
If you could fusion dance those two guys and then put them on a little scooter, you'd have a real quarterback. You're just actually, the problem is you also have two of the least mobile quarterbacks in the league. So you still ain't getting out of the pocket, but you are throwing the ball well.
I think for Atlanta, again, it's no money. So we're not for Tua, right? So the Tua has like $54 million or something crazy guaranteed. So you're not going to pay him. You know, it's just offset similar to Kyler. I think that, like, if I was choosing between Tua at $1 million and Kirk Cousins at probably not a lot is what he's going to ask for at this point. Pretty similar, I feel like, value. Maybe Kirk? Is that crazy?
So I liked Kirk back to the Falcons from a scheme fit perspective.
Yeah.
I do think that Kirk is going to give you more 10 plus yards down the field. And so if you want to be a team that engages with the passing game in a vertical fashion, then you're going to need somebody who pushes it more aggressively than Tua does, and that would be Kirk. One of the things that I think Stefanski did best over his time with the quarterback doldrums there in Cleveland is their screen game was unbelievable. Their manufactured yards after the catch, design touch stuff near the line of scrimmage was just delightful. It was so good. And so if you are saying to yourself what Tua can do for us on a one-year deal as we prepare to get our quarterback of 2027 in here, is he can just kind of pop gun and throw the ball underneath to Bijan, and we'll use Bijan a lot of creative ways, and we'll use Kyle Pitts yards after the catch because Pitts' air yards per target's been coming down. Like that to me is viable relative to what Cleveland's new coaching staff wants to do, relative to the Kirk plan of like hopefully his arm is strong enough to bang these 15-yard dig routes like that. So that while technically true, like over an 18-game season, you do worry about that.
Yeah,
It's not a thrilling conversation either direction. Don't get me wrong. I don't feel good about either answer, but that's where my head's at.
All right, let's. There's a little bit of a lull right now in the signings. We did get Reggie Gilliam, the fullback, to the Patriots.
Low-key huge. Jack Westover film was starting to wear on me. I was ready for the real fullback to play there in New England. That's very nice.
The Patriots, by the way, it's interesting. So let me open up the salary cap. Mm-hmm. One thing I do think outside of the Jets and the Panthers, let's open this. A lot of the teams with a ton of money have not been super active early on.
Titans haven't really done anything yet.
Titans, the Raiders, the Commanders. I'm just reading the teams.
Who are the Seahawks going to keep, Mina? Because they're losing Kenneth. It sounded like Shaheed's going to hit the open market. It sounds like Kobe Bryant is either signing with the Bears or was close to a deal with the Bears. Mafe does not seem to me to be like, oh, scheme fit, we got to get him back. What? They have a lot of money.
It'd be really fun if they end up just keeping Tariq Woolen after everybody's assumed he's out the door. But they do have a lot of money, and they have not been. They did a small deal with Rake Thomas.
Pelissero just reported, by the way, officially, Bears are signing Kobe Bryant. No money yet, but Kobe's a Bear. Which Kobe Bryant, by the way, great player. Everybody go watch you some Kobe Bryant film. He's gonna be a good Bear.
Seattle has a decent depth at that position. I'm not surprised that they moved on there.
Big time hours.
Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to make more money than God. So I'm not surprised that we're not seeing big deals from Seattle. I am surprised, though, the teams that I mentioned, the Raiders, the Titans, the Commanders, the Chargers did sign. They did a one-year deal with Khalil Mack, but we'll see what happens with OA. The Jets have been spending money. The Cardinals, the Bengals are the top teams. So when we, I mentioned all of those top free agents, Trey Hendrickson, Linderbaum, Odafe, and Mafe, the teams that I just mentioned, probably destinations for some of those teams. There would just be,
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
My Seahawks chat just said the Kobe Bryant deal. All right. So as I was saying, we've got a little bit of a lull. So let's talk about the Maxx Crosby trade, because we have not talked about that. And that is by far still the biggest news of the week. Maxx Crosby and I posted immediate thoughts from my hotel room at MIT Sloan to Instagram.
Oh, is that where you were? You were at Sloan. Okay.
People were like, "Why are you sitting on the ground next to a hotel bed?" I'm like,
Yeah.
There's been a lot of really, in fact, telling of how teams felt about free agency generally. All the all-in teams did massive trades. The Bills, we should probably talk about all of them over the course of the next 2 days. The Bills going for DJ Moore, the Rams, we did talk about the Trent McDuffie, but the biggest one, of course, was the Ravens trading 2 first-round picks for Maxx Crosby.
2 first-round picks for Maxx Crosby. Here's the thing about 2 first-round picks. It's twice as many as 1 first-round pick. That's a lot of first-round picks.
Pick 14 this year. Now it goes to the Raiders. So there's not really much to talk about from the Raiders side. I love it. I think, Maxx Crosby had been agitated. Like there'd been smoke around him leaving for a while. I think this is tremendous return, frankly, for a player his age. I think with the Ravens next year's pick, we can bet will likely be less valuable, but pick 14 is great. Such glaring needs on this offense. You have this young quarterback coming in, opportunity now to make significant improvements both in the draft and free agency at the offensive line and wide receiver position. So good job, Raiders. If you're a Raiders fan, I think this is great. The Ravens side of this is more like, we can see different angles, right?
Yeah.
And with all of these trades, when you have one team that's rebuilding and one team that's all in, or not really the case with Kansas City and Chicago, but teams that are just cap strapped or have different players ascending, as the case in Chicago, you have different motivations. So when we say win-loss, the reality is for the Ravens, Ben, we're not going to know if this was a win until next February.
Yeah.
If the Ravens make it to the Super Bowl, nobody's going to be like, Maxx Crosby only had 11 sacks instead of 13 or whatever.
Yep.
So you got to put a pin in this. As far as the player they're getting, I think this is an interesting discussion. Maxx is one of the more complete edges in the NFL. As many people have pointed out, he is arguably the best run defending edge in football. It's very important to Jesse Minter, who wants to play with light boxes. He wants to get pressure with 4. Maxx never leaves the field. Maxx's production has declined over the last couple of years. I put this up in my video, but pressure numbers down. 2 things though. One, this year he was hurt. He got injured like halfway through the season. This was the source of kind of some of the dissent, and then he got surgery afterwards. The year before, he actually recorded a pass rush win rate, which is ESPN's metric, that was as high as really it's ever been for him. It was close to 20%. I think it was top 10 and like 9th in the league. And he was playing in front of a horrible secondary with an offense that never gave him leads. Now you're playing in front of a much better secondary with a quarterback who is one of the best in the NFL, assuming he's healthy the entire season. So I think the Ravens are not stupid to bet on the fact that they can get better production out of the player with the change in circumstances.
100%. And the run defense into pass rush and pressure rate is extremely important as well when you take it in the context of how many snaps is Crosby going to play, period, right? Crosby very famously did not leave the field for the Las Vegas Raiders. He played at one point in the 24 season 370 consecutive snaps over the course of 6 games. This is the longest stretch NGS has ever tracked consecutive snaps for a defensive lineman. When we talk about iron men, I do not come off of the field. A defensive line in the NFL is extremely rare in the modern era. Crosby is one of the last few ones remaining. Incredible. New defense in Baltimore, new culture, new locker room, new reality for Crosby, whose trade is 29. If the Ravens can just convince him to take a drink of water on the sideline for 20% of the snaps, we're going to give you more third downs and your legs are going to be fresher, Max. Like, let's put some sacks on the board. So there is a very easy to talk yourself into window of no, Crosby does not have like the elite pressure rate, elite get off, elite sack rate of a Parsons or Garrett or whatever. But if we just tweak a couple things in terms of how many snaps you get with a lead and how many snaps you take overall, bang, you're a 15 sack player. That is an extremely reasonable leap to take. He is 29. So you get that leap for 1 year, 2 years. Like that's the thing is you are not buying, if you get this right, even which is an if, right? Even if you get this right, you're only getting it for a small window. And then you have a 31-year-old, 32-year-old, and you have to start being honest about, okay, snap count even lower. What's the efficiency like long-term? And so for the Ravens, it's very like, okay, I see what you guys are thinking, but you better, like, it's a first-time head coach here in Jesse Minter, who's going to be like, adjusting his defense for a new group of personnel. Like, there's a lot of dominoes that have to fall between here and getting this right. And you have really one shot because Roquan's turning 30, Marlon Humphrey's turning 30. You don't know if Nnamdi Madubuike is coming out, and Nnamdi's already 28 because he entered the league as an old rookie, right? And so you have to hit the ground running with this defense because everybody is backing up against it in terms of health. And so it is impressively aggressive. It is an understandable risk. It's got a lot of great, about high tail, right tail outcomes. There's a lot of worlds where this like takes the Ravens defense from the 5th best to the 1st best like that. But baby, you got a 1-year, 2-year window. You have to hit this with Lamar healthy now. You do not get a long-term runway on getting this right.
The almost equally interesting to me was it being reported as Maxx Crosby is rejoining the Ravens and Nnamdi Madubuike is coming back because, frankly, I wasn't sure, right? Like the injury news with Madubuike, who's big part of the why the Ravens were so dismal rushing the passer last year, bad, bottom 5 in every metric, was that they lost their best pass rusher at the beginning of the season, the guy who they paid the money to in Madubuike, and he was like a neck injury, really like one of those things where you didn't really know if he's back. And then suddenly all the young guys, like a Mike Green or who they still have on their roster, Ojabo, is he still?
Yeah, it's Ajabo's still there. Adisa Isaac is still there. Tavius Robinson is still there.
Yes.
The Nnamdi thing is like, listen, you could have every surgeon in the world, 10 out of 10 dentists in front of me being like, the neck is perfect. It'll never get hurt again. Boy, it's a neck. It's a spine for a defensive lineman. I do not know how you in March, in February, are sitting here being like, yes, I am very confident that Madubuike is healthy long-term. So I can't believe the level of confidence we're getting on the Madubuike thing right now.
Cade Mays to the Lions. So another center. That's
a very scheme, culture, play style fit.
Very Lions
one beforehand. Yeah.
3 years, $12 million. That's a good deal for them, I think. Yeah. Centers are not expensive, which is why the Linderbaum deal is going to be just like either so shocking or.
You said it was 3 years, 25.
That is what Aaron Wilson NFL said.
Nice. No, I agree that is cheap. It is like the Mays thing is tricky because he doesn't have a ton of starts. He was like, a backup player. Like I was worried a team was going to get outed on Linderbaum, get outed on, McGovern, and then give him like 10, 11, 12. And that's just way too much confidence for the profile that we've gotten. So to me, that price is a lot better. And then, again, talking about why this is such a good fit. The Lions are not the sort of team that asks their center, hey, man, get out there to the numbers on a screen. Like, we got Penny Sewell for that. Like, oh, man, you get on the hoof. Here's our wide zone run. Like, everybody talks about, Jameer Gibbs, the explosiveness. Yeah, but they're not a wide zone team. They're not trying to stretch you out that way. It's not really been their identity. Their running game is highly multiple. And so Mays is the sort of guy who's really good in a phone booth, but needs to be protected from making a lot of plays on the hoof. And that's something the Lions are extremely well equipped to do, given the fact that they have really good athletes at other positions on the offensive line and just the way they've generally ran the ball stylistically. So it's a very good fit.
Lions also were hit with the news that Taylor Decker was not returning, their left tackle, which was it seemed to come as like a little. Oh.
Are you okay? Did you spill coffee on your keyboard? Oh no, headphones out. Okay.
Yeah.
When I make that face, it's because I spilled coffee on my keyboard. I have 2 keyboards on my desk right now because I have spilled coffee on one of them, and now I have a second one.
Okay, we're good. So there's multiple positions now. Did you see the I don't know if I would call this smoke or speculation, but the suggestion that they might move Penny Sewell, to left tackle. Have you seen any of that?
Oh, I thought you were going to say in trade. I was like, what? And playing no offensive lineman?
Yeah.
Sure, but no. Like, don't do that. Just go get a left tackle. He's Penny Sewell.
This is
not 2007. Like, right tackles are important.
Yeah, I don't really get that as well. I feel like people always do that. Like when a tackle is bad, they'll say move to guard, and then when a left tackle is gone, they'll say move the right tackle to left tackle. Like there's just, I know this is the kind of thing that makes offensive linemen very grumpy.
Well, as they always say, right? Just try wiping with the other hand, and you'll find out pretty quick how hard it is to switch sides. So that's the metaphor that's always used, and it's a crass one, but it's a good one.
The Commanders just signed
$1 million to the Bucks, which shout out the Bucks being like, man, you guys want to actually take linebacker seriously now that Lavonte David is up. But they've needed a linebacker 2 option for a long time. And I think Anzalone can be that for them if David returns. If David doesn't return, then obviously he can step in and be linebacker 1.
Yeah. I mean, I am generally a fan of these like middle-class linebacker contracts, right? I think it's one of those positions. similar to center and tight end, where because the players outside the top of the market don't make a ton of money, if you can get like a good, competent vet at, we've seen a lot of veteran linebackers switch teams in their late 20s and have success at the next. There's like a pattern of that. So I think it's fine of drafting a guy. And
Yeah. I like a Kingsley Enagbare to
yeah,
the
I
Packers.
saw that. That
1
was
year, $10
got a
million.
little. Ooh, I like that.
Enagbare is a very good Aaron
To the
Glenn
Jets.
edge, rugged, good size. He's going to be impactful against the run. He's going to be able to two gap and create some TFLs. And I also really like 1 year deal for him because he's been quite good in rotational play for the Packers, but he's never really been given like a full menu of snaps. 1 year deal. Jets don't have a ton of edge depth. Get to play 600 snaps if you play well. Enagbare is still going to hit the market again. He's going to be what, 27 next time he hits it. Like, you actually can go get yourself a big fat deal. So Enagbare to the Jets is one I like. Joseph Osai, not so much. Kenneth Kingsley Enagbare I like.
The Jaylen Watson money came in, the cornerback from the Chiefs who the Rams signed. You want to guess?
I don't want to because I think I don't like Jaylen Watson nearly as much as the market does, I think.
3-year, $51 million.
I was going to say 15 and it's 17. Okay, I feel better.
17.
Okay.
So they went from, like I said, this was one of the cheapest defenses in football. Now you are paying two corners because McDuffie's deal was what, 30-ish, I believe. But that is a lot of money at the cornerback position. I guess you can do that when your edge rushers are on rookie contracts, Byron Young and Jared Verse. But buddy,
I have a piece of analysis that is not in depth and nerdy, but is vibes based. But I like when you go and you get two corners from Kansas City and you're paying them at market rate. One of the things to me that you're implying is like, we can get more out of these guys than the previous team did. And I don't love that feeling when the DC for the previous team was old Steven Spagnuolo. I don't love being like, all right, there have been a lot.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
There have been a lot of defensive players who have left Spags' defense over his years.
That's true.
Not gone on to be as good of players elsewhere because Spags runs some very unique stuff and is a very good coach at like maximizing his guys. I just, Chris Shula, who, was going to be a head coach and then it didn't come to pass and whatever. Like, all right, make yourself some money, man. Like, this is a serious coaching job here.
The Chiefs and the Rams kind of had opposite problems on defense, right? The Chiefs couldn't get any pressure and the Rams could get pressure but couldn't cover behind that. So it's kind of a bet, I would say, less on coaching and more on, okay, cool, what if we had a real pass rush with these corners? I will say, though, I'm in agreement with you about the fact that, like, and this is more about the McDuffie deal, but like the Chiefs' track record when it comes to evaluating the cornerback and their secondary, I would say cornerback position in particular, it's scary. Sneed, Marcus Peters, who they traded, like, to an extent, there's other reasons for that, but this team has been pretty smart about when they move on. I think for Kansas City, though, the problem is you don't have cornerbacks now. You legitimately, Noel Williams.
I'm going to say Noel Williams, my GOAT, 3rd-round pick out of Cal, good and limited play, I believe. They have Chamari Connor to play the slot, which is not good news, despite the fact that he's been there and been very experienced. Najee Johnson is 2024 7th-round pick who's played for them. Again, that's a guy I think you have to improve upon. Losing Brian Cook, presumably at safety in free agency, the year after losing Justin Reed at safety is a not small deal. I think Cook is a little bit overvalued in the market right now, but still, like, this was a starting caliber player for the Chiefs. And again, a lot of what Spags does requires a lot of communication, a lot of rotations, to be very, very good in your zone spacing. You have to kind of know how to adjust and overlap the routes. It's very, like, the zones are very amorphous. They kind of aren't built the same way they're built on other teams. They ask their safeties to do things a little bit differently, the corners. And so it's a hard unit to just kind of plug and chug free agents into, which is why typically you've seen Spags draft and develop and do it so well. But right now the coffers are pretty thin, without question. I wasn't thinking about how important this is for my guy Noel Williams. I got to get a Noel Williams tweet off.
Rick Woolen and Jamel Dean being out there is so interesting to me. Well, very different players in terms of, like, Woolen's very young, so you're going to get a multi-year deal. Jamel Dean, I wouldn't be surprised. Well, he's the same age as Carlton Davis, and Carlton Davis signed a pretty chunky deal. I
348 or something like that.
Yeah. So again, I go back to the teams we talked about. I mean, what if the Chiefs sign Jamel Dean to like a 1 year?
Dean's a good fit for them. Dean's a very, very good fit for
Great
them.
team fit,
Yeah.
man. I mean,
Can press, can buzz off into zone stuff. A lot of what Todd Bowles does is decently analogous to what Spags does in terms of defensive backfield. And so Dean
coming
makes a
off
lot of
of
sense
his
there.
best year though, and like it was we talked about this, I think, on one of my pods, but with Tampa, it was like they bet on McCollum, Dean was down, and then Dean in his free agent year rose, and health was an issue, and I think that would have to be an issue too with Kansas City. But if you're one of those all-in teams. Speaking of all-in teams, I haven't talked about the Bills trading for DJ Moore on this podcast because that happened after we taped last week. So I would love to get your thoughts on that. The Bears, Brian Poles, a W. Let's give him this. I feel like I've been hard on him over the years at points. Trade DJ Moore to the Bills, getting a second round pick. He traded a 5th round pick, so I think depending on which draft value chart you look at, that nets out to about 3rd, but it's a 2nd round pick this year. And you also, more notably, get his contract off your books. Let me get the deal. I have it written down. His base salary in 2026 was $23.5 million. But adding per roster bonuses, this is from ESPN, they were going to be on the hook to pay him $50 million over the next 2 seasons. Now, comes off the books. They save a decent amount of cap space this year. And then in the future, the Bills acquire him and added a guarantee.
Don't even talk to me about that.
That blew my mind.
He's going to be 30 years old. You don't know if he's good. You don't know if he works with Josh Allen at all. And you extended, you guaranteed money that already existed, not for injury. You guaranteed his money in 2027.
So, okay.
In 2028. From the 2026.
From the Bears' perspective, like we said, the draft return, I think, is incredible, frankly. Given that he was really your 2nd or 3rd receiver. I mean, with the Luther Burden starting to produce. And then if you think about Loveland in the mix too, really, certainly, I know that's not really wide receiver 1 money at this point, or it's low end wide receiver 1 money, but he wasn't even close to a wide receiver 1. He had some big moments in Chicago, including, the big catch. It was Green Bay, right? The big catch against Green Bay. But he was pretty unreliable for them. This has been discussed a lot. I don't need to beat a dead horse. Very inconsistent, shall we say, in his route running. So I think for Chicago, we wouldn't even talk about this. Is a big win. Great for them. For Buffalo, I do think they deserve the same caveat that we give to the Ravens, where if this team makes it to the Super Bowl and DJ Moore is a contributor even in the postseason, it's hard to get upset about this. How do you feel about the fit, though?
Like that adjustment from big factor to contributor did a lot of heavy lifting there in that question, because you could tell I was about to cut you off.
I know.
Fit wise, I think it is very, I went back and I looked at how DJ Moore was used with the Panthers and Joe Brady back when he was more so on his rookie contract deal, and they wanted to use him down the field, and there was intermediate breaking stuff, and he had a little bit like a field stretcher aspect to his game. He just does not have that downfield ability, big play ability, the speed. Do not think that he is that caliber of a player right now. The presence with Khalil Shakir, though, means that they want to be able to play him on the outside, and they want to be able to run him on vertical routes. And just DJ Moore does not reliably separate against cornerback ones in the NFL when asked to win in isolation on the outside without schematic assistance, right? It just, to me, DJ Moore is very much so like a holy line of demarcation. He's a Mendoza line. If you are above this line, you can beat, I don't know, who's a good, average cornerback 1 in the NFL. You're like AJ Terrell. He's pretty good, but you can beat these guys in man coverage. And if you're below DJ Moore, you can't. To me, it's just DJ Moore is what a poor team's version of a wide receiver 1 looks like. So when you don't have the thing, this is what you go and you get for as a kind of a facsimile to it. Now, Brady has been extremely good at scheming receivers around and moving guys into the backfield in and out. And I think you'll see Moore occupy a little bit more of that and bump Khalil Shakir out of that a little bit, because how you have to use more. You got to, get value on the investment. But to me, the Bills still have a big honking need at guy who beats other guy consistently, reliably in space. And I don't know how they're going to address that.
Someone in a different front office told me when this trade, I was texting about the trade, he was like, they just don't value separators there.
Right.
And
That's such a good way of saying it.
yeah, and why do they run so much mesh? Well,
They need traffic. They need bumps. They need fixed. Yeah. I saw somebody say after the more deal that like they'll still be in on Shaheed, and to me like that starts to clarify things. Where if you go and you get a guy who legitimately changes geometry with low targets, Rashid Shaheed, then you can get more targets to DJ Moore in space because you're yanking safeties, you're displacing guys. But that's if you go sign a second big contract at receiver.
Yeah.
I would love if Brandon Beane does, but I will not be holding my breath.
But if you do that, their defense has needs. This Bills defense on it, like
safety, nickel corner, interior defensive line help, probably another starter at linebacker.
Edge.
We have the Tyler Linderbaum deal.
Baby. Here we go. Just in time. Let's go.
$27 million a year?
Whoa. What?
27? The current biggest is 18. If you
guys have been listening to this chat, we've been like $10 billion for a center, $13 million to 3. Holy macaroni. This is what happens when you got a team with money to burn. Oh, Adam,
I'm about to say, I just tried to quote tweet it and it's gone.
It's grayed out.
He's probably editing it. Maybe it's 71. If it's 71, it makes a lot more sense. Because 3 into 71 is what? 23, 24?
Okay, he just updated it. 3-year, $81 million, $60 million guaranteed.
81 million?
Okay. Let's
so wait.
The money and talk about.
Yeah, Raiders, great. I love it for the Raiders.
I love it for the Raiders. I love it.
For him.
It's an insane amount of money. Let's set aside the money because so on this podcast, I've talked about Tyler Linderbaum to the Raiders being a good idea. It is very clearly a great idea, right? You've got a rookie quarterback coming in. You've got major holes on your offensive line. He's going to be playing under center he did not play under center at Indiana. I think he's capable of. He did a little bit, but in Clint Kubiak's scheme, which is very, under center, outside zone, boot off of that, the center has a lot of responsibility. And I loved the idea of bringing in a veteran center for Fernando Mendoza. Even it's an interesting, because they still have money to spend and God knows they could be the Shaheed team, but it has been like an interesting philosophical decision to say, okay, we got the rookie quarterback. What do we want to invest in? They very clearly decided, and they've got that 14th pick. Don't forget that they could also spend on a receiver, but they said, we are going to invest in the center position. I love it. The price is a whole other conversation, but the player, the fit, the need, what he's going to do for Mendoza, I love every part of that.
Yeah, it is huge for Mendoza because he had a very experienced center there at Indiana and Pat Coogan. Mendoza wants to be a player who operates at the line of scrimmage, is going to be able to set protections. One of his strengths is being cerebral, but that jump from college to the NFL is a very, very, very big jump. And so while I trust Mendoza to make it, he seems like an extremely smart cat. You do want to have a little bit of bumpers on the guardrails, right? A little bit of roller skates, not roller blades on. And so that's going to help him out a big way in that regard. I also think you can't say enough in terms of the impact Linderbaum has. Like I went back and watched this film. What is most impressive to me is how he gets out there on screens, his ability to block in space and something like the design screen game stuff. Clint Kubiak, obviously a big screen game player. You want to have an offensive lineman who you feature in that. Linderbaum can be that player. Mendoza also, from his time in Indiana, was accustomed to be able to run that RPO game and that kind of collegiate style where, okay, you have a quarterback run involved, but also like we have offensive linemen getting out into space and we can throw the ball behind the line of scrimmage. And so from everything Mendoza does well to everything that Mendoza needs help with, makes a lot of sense. I think it allows him to clarify JPJ's role as well. If you're still trying to get something out of Jackson Powers-Johnson, being able to play him at the guard position, that center is secured. You put all of your JPJ resources and time into making him work at guard. It's great. Makes a ton of sense. This was my favorite. It was here or it was the Titans with Cam Ward, where it's like, get one of these first overall picks, a really, really, really good center. It's excellent. Do we know for sure that it's 27 million?
I know. I'm keep an eye on the money because that is just wow.
So right now, 27 million per year, if it's correct, would be the 6th biggest offensive line contract. Not center, not interior. It's Laramie just signed an extension for 30 million per. Rashawn Slater is 28.5. Tristan Wirfs 28. Penny Sewell 28. Trent Williams 27.5. Then Charles Cross at 26.1. It would be the 6th highest offensive line. He'd be more than all but 5 tackles in the league, man. That's bananas.
Don't blame the Ravens for not getting out of this business. Other Tyler news breaking. Shout out to the chat. Tyler Algier, a Mina Kimes Show favorite.
I'm very interested in this.
Arizona.
Oh, so just James Conner, but shorter.
Did they bring back James Conner too?
They restructured the
over the
deal
weekend?
to make
Yeah.
him be able to stay. Yeah.
Sure. That, we still know who plays quarterback in Arizona.
I wanted Algier to go somewhere where I
Yeah,
liked the
he'd be-
line,
yeah,
and I thought he would get more
doing
carries.
stuff, yeah.
2 years, $12 million. Yeah.
Tales of a weed smoker is really
Breaking the news in the YouTube
posting
chat
a
right
lot. No, this is my pet peeve. I'm gonna single you out. College quarterbacks are failing in the NFL because they don't know how to play under center or read defenses. My guy Drake May was just in the Super Bowl. Caleb Williams was just in the postseason. Bo Nick, like I this is my pet peeves is like, ooh, college quarterbacks can't play. Literally, the 2024 draft class just happened, and
we have a young quarterback problem in the league for the 35th year in a row, right?
Well,
yeah, it's I also agree. I do not buy
my
it.
personal pet peeve.
Rap just tweeted, while the Ravens made a strong offer early for their center, it was the 3-year term they could not match.
Yeah,
it was the 3-year term they got them. It was we can't get into 2029, brother. It's too far. Come on.
Oh my God, this is hilarious. Wow, Tyler Linderbaum. I mean, look, again with the Raiders, you got $1 zillion to spend. I'm not going to be angry at you for spending it on a good player at a position that's so fundamental to your young quarterback succeeding. Is it an insane overpay? Abso-freaking-lutely.
The previous high was Creed Humphrey at $18 million. So the market just got reset at 150%. 150%.
One of the biggest market resets at a position we've seen.
I think is period. 150%. What? Like you would need to be
crazy.
paying. You would need to pay Brandon Aubrey like $13 million per year to get that done right now. That's a huge amount of money. God. I don't know if my kicker math was right. Nobody make fun of me. I did that off my head.
All right. We're going to wrap soon. I'm just double checking that there's no new news coming in. That one came in.
Oh, no, you only need to pay Aubrey like $10 million per year. Okay, so maybe Aubrey's going to do it too. But still.
Wild. You just still need a receiver, of course. So
Raiders.
Dobbs.
I mean, I wouldn't hate it.
They're the stalking
horse. Jennings, I would kind of like for them a lot.
God, you can't pay Shaheed. You can't overpay Shaheed right after you do this deal, can you?
No, and I also don't, I think Shaheed is a fit, but I also don't think they need Shaheed because they have Trey Tucker, and I think that in your ideal world, Trey Tucker's doing enough of that you just don't need to be in the Shaheed market at the price that he's going to get.
Do you need more offensive linemen? Because
that was where my head went. Yeah,
you need another tackle. Maybe. I mean,
yeah. So DJ Glaze was the right tackle for them. He was a draft pick in 24. He's been playing for the last couple of years. He's probably fine and acceptable at right tackle. They lose Alex Kappa. Dylan Parham is a rising free agent. If they lose Parham, I think you need a guard addition. If they don't lose Parham, I think you're probably fine. But you also have to acknowledge that Colton Miller's getting up there contract wise, and they had trade discussions about him. And so to me, you can improve at either guard or tackle spot defensively. You could also like choose not to, and it's still defensible. But on the we're drafting a first overall quarterback, yeah, I'd prefer if you lean towards let's get really aggressive at improving the offensive line.
All right, there's a lot left to be determined. By the way, Arizona Cardinals fans, if you're bummed because I think they wanted Malik Willis, go watch Arch Manning highlights, guys. Yeah, it's time.
And yeah, start the Cope.
Are they who are the peak Cope teams right now? I mean, the Jets.
Jets have been in constant Cope. I mean, if the Browns officially like get through this and don't add any quarterback, and it's like, all right, Shador versus Deshaun, that'll get pretty Copey pretty quick. Yeah, Cardinals are up there. All
right, so to recap, let's go over. I'm just going to pull up the list of the deals that we've already gotten because there's been a lot today. There's still some free agents out there. I'm going to start from the beginning of the day. Well, we can leave out the Crosby trade. The Packers trade Rashan Gary to the Cowboys. The Dolphins trade Minka Fitzpatrick to the Jets. We didn't even talk about that, really. Kelsey comes back to the Chiefs for probably his final season. The Colts keep Alec Pierce, signing him to so far the biggest deal for a receiver, and trade Michael Pittman Jr. to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Raiders re-sign Eric Stokes. the Patriots signed Draymond Jones. I completely missed that.
Oh yeah. 3 years, 39 million.
He was surprisingly good.
He was a Titan under Vrabel. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. The Bucks brought back Kate Otten. Well, by the way, so Ben and I are podcasting tomorrow, and we'll talk about the deals that we didn't get to, and hopefully some more. But I'm gonna keep going. The Chiefs signed Kenneth Walker. The Rams, in addition to trading for Trent McDuffie, signed Jaylen Watson to a pretty sizable deal. The Dolphins signed Malik Willis. The Panthers give Jalen Phillips a massive contract. Isaiah Likely goes to the Giants. The Commanders re-signed Laramie Tunsil. We haven't even gotten to the Trent Williams as a potential trade target. We'll get to that.
Oh, man.
The Ravens signed John Simpson, guard. The Bucks add both Alex Anzalone and Kenneth Gainwell. And then finally, the Raiders throw the biggest of bags at Tyler Linderbaum. My question for you, Ben, to wrap today's show: which of these is your favorite contract, favorite move, accounting for everything, player fit, value, all of it?
I like Kobe Bryant to the Bears a lot. I will say
I didn't even mention that. Sorry.
I think I spent a lot of time pre-free agency saying Malik Willis will get priced out of the Dolphins range, so it won't happen. So the Dolphins getting Malik into the building, obviously 22 per year, it's 45 guaranteed, so it's almost certainly a 2-year commitment. But I do think that for as bad as the historical precedent is, that's the right sort of tire kick to be making at this time, at this stage, because you can still very easily rebuild with a $20 million quarterback contract. It's basically the Fields deal, just with a slightly higher salary cap, so it's like, same percentage, slightly higher number. So it's the exact right sort of deal to be able to invest in a good physical talent, see if you can get at least a bridge out of him, right? See if you can get, Baker, Sam caliber play out of him, while also still being really reoriented on retooling the roster. This sort of figure does not prevent you from doing that at all. So Dolphins, I think it's a big win that they're the team that successfully got Malik into the building at that number.
I forgot to mention this, but Cade Mays to the Lions, probably one of my favorite.
Yeah, that's a very good one.
Today, especially at the value that they got for him. Honestly, a lot of the center deals, I was like, yeah, it's pretty, like, we didn't spend a lot of time on it, but I did like the Chargers adding Biotish, who I think is a competent center. It was obviously a glaring area of need for them. So that's one that comes to mind. I'd say Algier to Arizona, but I don't really know.
I need to know more about what Arizona looks like. Algier's a good player. They got him for $6 million per year. That is a win. But if we're not able to do anything at the quarterback position, our offensive line stays the same. What are we doing?
We didn't spend a lot of time on it, but I do like Likely on the Giants. I could see
he got just a skosh more per year than Mark Andrews did, which I find extremely funny and very intentional.
That is very funny. Okay, man, this Jaylen Phillips deal, I do think we also need to spend more time.
Yeah, we kind of had to blitz through that.
Yeah, that is a big deal. I like the player a lot. I think I like him more than most people, and I understand why they had to sign. And I understand too, their timeline is different from a Trey Hendrickson team, for example. But it's a lot. It's a lot of money. And I think before I really say how I feel about that deal, I need to see what Mafe and Owe come in at. That makes me think, holy mackerel, those guys are going to make a lot more than people think.
Oh, I better get
if another team signs Mafe for $20 million, I'll be like, oh, Carolina, I don't know. Anyways, I mean, Phillips is a better player. He was my favorite edge in the class. But all right. So Ben and I are going to tape another podcast tomorrow. It's not going to be live, but it'll come out on Wednesday. So we're doing 2 free agency pods. Hopefully we'll know by then what happens with.
Yeah. Root for news.
Things
need to happen between now and then.
Thank you guys for joining today. This was a ton of fun. Shout out to the chat for breaking a lot of the news to me.
Mostly no lies. Thank you.
No, but you guys didn't fake news me. So I appreciate that. If you want us to do more about live streams, let us know. We're trying. This is a new thing. Had a lot of fun in the Super Bowl, so maybe we'll do it again. And thank you as always to everyone at Omaha Productions, and we're out.